was hiding under her bed on her wedding night, and she had no idea I was there. From my prison of dust and shadows, I could just see the hem of her wedding dress. It was a masterpiece of crimson and gold, heavy with embroidery that was supposed to tell a story of celebration. A story that was a lie. Each thread felt like a stitch in the shroud of the life she was meant to have, the life we were meant to have. The muffled sound of laughter from the party downstairs vibrated through the floorboards, each beat a hammer blow to my heart. They were celebrating the sale of a soul, her soul. Every joyful shout from the hall felt like a countdown to the moment her new husband, a stranger her father had chosen, would walk through that door and claim what he'd bought. A countdown to the moment our world would end forever. But she didn't know I was here, cowering under the bed she was meant to share with him, holding my breath until my lungs burned. She didn't know I had a plan. A desperate, foolish plan, sure, but a plan to get us out, or die trying. This wasn't just the end of her wedding day. It was the beginning of our war. And the first battle was about to be fought in the silence of her bridal chamber. To understand why I was lying in the dust under Zara's wedding bed, you have to understand where we came from. In our world, love is a luxury. Duty is the only currency that matters. Zara and I were born into families that put honor above everything, an honor defined by old traditions that had no place for a love like ours. We were childhood best friends. Our houses were separated by a low brick wall we learned to climb before we could really read. Our friendship was the one thing that felt sacred in our lives, a bond so pure that nobody ever thought to question it. It was always Aisha and Zara, Zara and Aisha, like we were one person. Our world was built in stolen moments. It was in the hushed whispers on her rooftop under the stars, our fingers laced together as we dreamed of a future that looked nothing like our mothers' lives. It was in the shared glances across crowded rooms, a silent language that spoke of a love deeper than anyone around us could imagine. It was the way my heart would quiet the second she walked into a room, the way her laughter was the only music that ever mattered. Our love story wasn't some grand fire. It was a quiet, stubborn ember we shielded from the world, knowing a single gust of wind would put it out forever. The wind came as a proposal, not for me, for her. A man from a wealthy family, a good match, they called it. I remember the day she told me. We were in our spot, an overgrown corner of the community garden. She didn't have to say a word. I saw it in her empty eyes, the way her hands trembled. Her family had accepted. The wedding was in 2 months. It was a death sentence. A few weeks later, my own family announced my engagement to a cousin I barely knew. It was their way of tying up loose ends, of building our prisons side by side. The stories are true. In many parts of the world, girls like us are forced into marriages they don't want. We're taught that our lives aren't our own, but a debt we owe our families, that our job is to be vessels for their honor. Our happiness is an afterthought, but they never tell you what it feels like to have your soul carved out of you while you're still breathing. They don't tell you about the suffocating silence that comes after, the feeling of being a ghost at your own funeral. Zara and I were just 2 more girls being led to the slaughter, and the world was celebrating with music and flowers. Now that music was just a dull throb beneath me. The air under the bed was thick with the jasmine in Zara's hair and the metallic taste of my own fear. I'd slipped in here hours ago, during the chaos of the ceremony, my heart a frantic drum in my chest. I'd imagined this moment 1,000 times, but my imagination had never captured the sheer, suffocating terror of it. My body was coiled into a knot, muscles screaming. Every creak in the hallway sent ice through my veins. Is that him? Is it her family? Then the door opened. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying, please don't be him, not yet. I heard the soft rustle of her dress, the heavy, silken sound of it moving across the floor. A small, choked sob. It was Zara. She was alone. I risked opening my eyes a fraction. Through the carved bed legs, I saw her walk to the window. She stood there for a long time, her silhouette a tragic portrait against the moonlit sky. The party downstairs seemed to be mocking her. She was crying silently, her shoulders shaking with the effort of holding it all in. Watching her, so close but so impossibly far, was its own kind of torture. Every part of me wanted to reach out, to comfort her, to tell her it would be okay. But I was stuck, a helpless witness. Eventually, she turned and walked slowly toward the bed. I held my breath. My heart was hammering so loudly I was sure she could hear it. She sat on the edge of the mattress, the springs groaning. Her feet, decorated with henna and silver anklets, dangled inches from my face. The same feet that had run alongside mine through countless fields. Now they were bound, just like the rest of her. Her quiet weeping was the most painful sound I'd ever heard. It was the sound of surrender, of hope dying. I couldn't bear it. My plan, which felt so bold back in my room last night, now seemed like a child's fantasy. But it was all I had. It was all we had. Slowly, so carefully, I reached a trembling hand out from under the bedspread. My fingers brushed her ankle. She froze. The crying stopped. A sharp, terrified gasp of air. For a heart-stopping second, I thought she would scream, a sound that would bring the entire world crashing down on us. "Zara," I whispered, my voice a dry, desperate rasp. "It's me." Silence, a thick, heavy silence that stretched on forever. She was completely still. I could feel her pulse hammering through the thin skin of her ankle. I'd made a terrible mistake. I damned us both. Then a whisper, so faint it was like a thought. "Aisha." Relief washed over me so hard I felt dizzy. "Yes, Zara, I'm here," I breathed, my voice shaking. "I'm here, I'm not leaving you." She slid off the bed and knelt down, her face appearing in the gap between the mattress and the floor. In the dim light, her eyes were wide with disbelief and terror. We just stared at each other for a second, two worlds colliding in the shadows. "What are you doing?" she whispered, her voice frantic. "You're insane, if he finds you." "He won't," I insisted, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "Come on." She pulled back the heavy bedspread, and I scrambled out, my limbs stiff and clumsy. The moment I was free, she pulled me into a desperate hug, burying her face in my shoulder. I held her tight, feeling her heart beating against mine. She was real. For just a second, the world outside this room melted away. It was just us. But reality came crashing back. She pulled away, her hands gripping my arms. "They'll kill you, Aisha. My father, my brothers, they'll kill us both. You have to leave. Now." "No," I said, my voice firmer now. "I'm not leaving, and neither are you." She stared at me. "What are you talking about?" "I have a plan, Zara. A way out." "How?" she asked, the word full of our shared despair. "Our families will never let us go. There's nowhere to run." "Yes, there is," I said, dropping my voice to a conspiratorial whisper. I took her freezing cold hands in mine. "Listen, for weeks I've been selling my grandmother's jewelry piece by piece. It's not much, but it's enough. I found a driver, a friend of a friend who helps people like us. He's waiting for us right now at the old bridge on the edge of town. He'll take us north to the city. We can disappear there, find work, find a new home together." She stared at me, searching my face for any sign of a lie. Hope was a fragile, flickering flame in her eyes, terrified of being put out again. "Leave, just leave everything," she whispered. "What is everything, Zara?" I asked, my voice raw. "This room, this dress, a life with a man you don't love, is that everything? Or is everything the rooftop we shared, the promises we made, is everything us?" I could see her resolve start to crack. The terror was still there, but something else was fighting its way through, defiance. She looked around the opulent room, at the wedding dress that was nothing more than a costume, at the bed that was supposed to be her prison. "He'll be here soon," she said, her voice shaking. "My husband." "I know," I replied, squeezing her hands. "Which is why we have to go now. All you have to do is walk out that door with me. Just walk out and we never look back. The back staircase will be clear. Everyone is downstairs, drunk and celebrating. No one will notice for hours." I held her gaze, my entire soul in my eyes. This was it. We could stay and fall, or we could jump and pray we learned how to fly. She took a deep, shuddering breath. She looked at me, and for the first time all night, a flicker of my Zara, the fighter, returned to her eyes. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Okay. The word hung in the air, a fragile pact. It was the most beautiful word I'd ever heard. We moved like thieves, silent and urgent. Zara shed the heavy wedding dress, letting it pool on the floor like blood. Underneath, she wore a simple tunic and trousers, as if some part of her knew she'd be running tonight. I grabbed the small bag I had with me, containing our meager savings. Every sound was magnified. A distant clock, a creak upstairs, the drone of the party, each one a potential death knell. We crept to the door and I pressed my ear against the wood. Nothing but muffled music. "The back staircase," I mouthed. She nodded, her eyes wide. She took my hand, our fingers locking together. This was it. We slipped into the dim hallway. The main part of the house was to our left, loud and bright. To our right, a narrow hall led to the servants' staircase. Our only chance. We moved like shadows, bare feet silent on the cool marble. We were halfway down the hall when a door opened ahead of us. We froze, flattening ourselves against the wall. A drunken uncle stumbled out, squinting in the dim light. My heart stopped. He hadn't seen us. He hummed a tuneless song, fumbling with his clothes as he stumbled away from us towards the party. We didn't breathe until his footsteps faded. We reached the staircase and started down, each step a small victory. The air grew colder, smelling of damp stone and spices from the kitchen. One more floor, then the back door to the gardens. 30 more seconds and we'd be out. And then we heard a voice. "Zara, what are you doing down here?" We froze on the landing. At the bottom of the stairs stood Zara's mother. She held a tray with a glass of milk, her face a mask of confusion that was quickly turning to suspicion. Her eyes flickered from Zara to me, a stranger in plain clothes with a bag. She saw Zara's simple attire, the missing bridal jewelry. The confusion vanished, replaced by a cold horror. "What is the meaning of this?" she hissed, her voice low and dangerous. Before Zara could answer, I stepped in front of her. "We're leaving," I said, my voice shaking but clear. Zara's mother looked at me like I was something disgusting on her shoe. Her eyes shot back to Zara. "Leaving? Have you lost your mind? Your husband is waiting for you." "He is not my husband," Zara cried out, her voice a roar from deep in her soul. "I will not go to him. I will not live this lie." Her mother's face went pale. The lie is this," she spat, pointing a trembling finger at me. "This filth. I always knew there was something unnatural about your friendship." "Don't you dare," Zara warned, stepping forward. Just then, footsteps thundered down the main stairs. Zara's father appeared. When he saw the scene, his wife, his daughter out of her wedding dress, and me, his face darkened with rage. "She was running away," Zara's mother shrieked. "With her." "You are shameless," her father roared, his voice echoing in the stairwell. He took a step toward us, his hand raised. "You bring disgrace on this family. I will lock you in your room until you forget this madness." "No," I shouted, pulling Zara behind me. "We will not be your prisoners. We are not your property." For a second, we were all frozen. Then her father lunged. I didn't think. I just reacted. I shoved Zara towards the back door. "Run!" I screamed. "Zara, run." She hesitated, her eyes wide with terror. "Gio, I'll be right behind you." That broke the spell. She turned and bolted as her father grabbed my arm. His grip was like iron. "You will go nowhere," he snarled. Adrenaline surged through me. I twisted, swinging my bag hard into his face. He staggered back, stunned, his grip loosening for just a moment. It was all I needed. I wrenched my arm free and ran. I burst through the back door into the cool night, not daring to look back as shouts erupted from the house. Zara was a few feet ahead, a phantom in the moonlight, running for her life, for our lives. We plunged into the darkness of the gardens and beyond, towards the old bridge, towards the sliver of a hope that we could outrun the world. We ran through manicured lawns and into rough, untamed fields. We ran until our lungs burned and our legs were numb. The shouts faded behind us, replaced by the pounding of our own hearts and our frantic, gasping breaths. We didn't look back. To look back was to risk turning into pillars of salt and regret. My only anchor was Zara's hand, locked in mine. It was a lifeline. We finally reached the old stone bridge. For one terrifying second, the road was empty. My heart sank. Did he leave? Was he ever really here? Then, a pair of dim headlights flickered on from behind some trees. A beat-up old car rolled out of the shadows and pulled up beside us. The driver's side window rolled down. An older man with kind eyes looked at us. "You the girls?" he asked calmly. I could only nod, unable to speak. "Get in," he said, quickly. We scrambled into the back seat, collapsing onto the worn fabric. The doors slammed shut and the car lurched forward. I finally risked a look back. In the distance, the lights of Zara's family home shone brightly, a beacon of a life that was no longer ours. It already looked so small. As the car picked up speed, the adrenaline began to fade, leaving a deep, trembling exhaustion in its place. I looked at Zara. Her face was pale in the dashboard lights, her hair wild. She looked at me and a single tear rolled down her cheek. But this tear was different. It wasn't born of grief. It was born of relief. "We're free, Aisha," she whispered, the words catching in her throat. Are we really free?" I pulled her into my arms, and we held each other as the car sped through the night. The weight of years of secrets, of fear, of suffocating duty began to lift. It felt like a stone being rolled away from a tomb. "Yes, Zara," I murmured into her hair, my own tears starting to fall. "We're together, and no one is ever taking that away from us again." We didn't really have a destination. We just had a direction, a way. We had almost no money, no family, no safety net. We had nothing but the clothes on our backs and the fierce, unbreakable bond between us. In the eyes of the world we left, we had nothing. But as I held her in that rattling car, speeding towards an unknown future, I knew we had everything that mattered. Years have passed. The terror of that night has faded into a scar, a reminder of the battle we won. We found a life in the city. It wasn't easy. We worked menial jobs, lived in a tiny apartment, and learned to rely on nothing but our own strength. But for the first time, we were truly living, not just surviving. We found a new kind of family, a community of people who had also run from lives that tried to break them. Our love was no longer a secret whispered in the dark, but the quiet truth that defined our days. It was in our morning tea, in the shared laughter over a burnt dinner, in the comfort of knowing that at the end of every hard day, we would come home to each other. Our love story wasn't a secret anymore. It became our story of hope. To anyone out there who feels trapped in a life that isn't yours, your desire for freedom is not madness. Your capacity to love is not a sin. Our escape wasn't simple, and I know it isn't safe or even possible for everyone. But hope is real. And for some of us, finding that freedom, finding a new life, is possible. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear that they are not forgotten. If you believe everyone has the right to choose who they love and how they live, let us know in the comments. And for more raw, emotional stories like ours, make sure you subscribe. Your voice, added to ours, makes us all stronger.